King Tiger 123 of 101st Heavy Tank Battalion have been immobilised by engine failure. It's taken 10 direct hits and the surviving crew members have scrambled away. As the fighting overtakes them, they are dragged away and placed side by side in the workshop. When the war is over, the French military used parts from both to create a working example for testing. With the turret and engine from King Tiger 300 and the chassis, tracks and gearbox from King Tiger 123, the composite King Tiger became part of the Musée de Blonde's collection in 1975. It was restored to working order in 1981, and today it is the world's only running example of a King Tiger, presented in the Normandy camouflage in which it was captured in 1944. All this thanks to the efforts of the team at the Musée de Blonde to keep this unique piece of history alive.
Hey Steve. The theme of this display is changing tactics. And you'll remember David just told you that between the wars America had light tanks and combat cars. They really didn't expect to fight either the Canadians or the Mexicans anytime soon. When France fell in 1940, they woke up to the impending threat of fascism and very quickly swung into action producing armoured vehicles. Now the one we have here is the M5A1. It wasn't the first American tank to see combat. The first American tank was the M3, but essentially the M5 is an upgraded M3. The M3 was a development of an existing light tank, rushed into service. The British had it in North Africa. They liked it because it was reliable, it was quick. They called it the Honey. They didn't like the lack of protection with a relatively small gun. Now the gun you can see on there is the standard American anti-tank gun, 37mm. This is what the Americans thought would be a successful tank. Which they had been using in the M3. That was a big, tall engine. Got rid of that, put the twin Cadillacs in there, produced the M5 Stuart. Now, Stuart was undergunned. This tank isn't undergunned. This is the replacement for the Stuart. This is the M24 Chaffee, specifically designed as a light tank, and specifically designed to meet some of the criticisms that the Stuarts had been subject to, in particular the firepower. Now that gun on there is a 75mm. I'm sure David would explain basically the size of the hole that you look down when you look down the barrel. Not designed for a tank. It was originally designed for an aeroplane. The Americans were very concerned about the size of the Japanese fleet in the Pacific, so they wanted some kind of ship-busting, long-range aircraft that were going to fit these 75mm underneath a Mitchell bomber. It wasn't a great success as an idea. A number were made, but it meant that there was a load of surplus guns available they could put into their new light tank. It's got the same twin Cadillacs that we've seen in the Stuarts. It's lightly armoured. The spec said they wanted it round about 20 to 25 tons. So that meant you had to limit the thickness of the armour, and that was the main criticism from the crew, that this tank loved the firepower. It's still relatively underprotected, particularly from mines. Now you'll notice that this one's in British colours. A relatively small number were provided for the British Army, and interesting, the 7th Armoured Div, the so-called Desert Rats, who had been using Stuart M3 and M5s for their reconnaissance tanks, because by the middle of the war, those light tanks were becoming pretty useless when faced with these heavier German vehicles. They replaced their M3s and M5s with the M24 Chaffee. Had a long service life. It fought in Korea, for instance. They were shipped from Japan into Korea at the start of the Korean War. Didn't fare desperately well against the Chinese-manned Russian T-34 85s. They were outgunned. fought in what was then called Indochina, French Indochina, when the French were trying to fight the Viet Minh, and famously the Battle of Dien Bien Phu. Bits of Chaffe's were parachuted onto the battlefield, reassembled in situ, and fought on the ground to try and defend the French positions there. The French lost, and not one of the Chaffe's came out of that battle in one piece. So we can see that we've got this concept of the light tank, and it was largely intended as a control work, really intended to fight as a what the Americans really wanted to build was a medium tank. They couldn't do it easily in 1940. We came up with possibly Sherman marked the most important Allied tank in World War II. The Russians might argue that T-34 was, but this tank, the sheer volume of its production throughout World War II, the Americans managed to produce 50,000 very nearly 50,000 Shermans. In World War II, the Germans produced 6,000 Panthers. Right? Every single heavy engineering company in America was producing Sherman tanks. This one was produced by the Lima Locomotive Company. It's got a cast hull, that rounded cast hull, very, very strong. Because Lima was used to dealing with big engines, big locomotives, they had the capacity to do this. Not all of the others did. Ford, for instance, wasn't used to that kind of thing. They tended to use welded and bolted construction. You'll notice, if you look very closely at Havoc, she's got what's known as applique armor attached to the outside, around the front of the hull, of the turret, on the side of the hull. That was to answer one of the major criticisms of the early marks of the Sherman, that they were prone to being penetrated and prone to fire. That was partly to do with poor ammunition stowage, which was put right in later marks, and when adding extra applique armor on the outside. The other major criticism of the gun was the protective there. We had a criticism of the Sherman it out of, but it's not, is to defeat hollow charged German anti-tank rockets like the Panzerfaust, Panzerschreck, right, which will explode on the outside of the wood. Easy to replace the wood, less easy to replace the tank and the crew. What did it got in his favour? And bear in mind they worked hard to deal with these deficiencies. They upgraded the gun, they put wet stowage in, damp stowage in for later models so that the ammunition didn't fly as much. What had in its favour was it was incredibly mechanically reliable. And perhaps the most important thing the Sherman had going for it, there was always another one. Now, I'm going to pass on to my colleague David, who's going to take on another icon of World War II.
Great opportunity here to see. We've got a T-34-85 coming on, almost a Russian equivalent of the Sherman. Mass production, huge numbers, and of course the Russians, they're looking at tanks and artillery. That's it. They don't give a monkeys about their navy, their air force. They are just going to make an enormous amount of artillery shells, tubes to launch those artillery shells, and tanks. That's going to be the Russian way of war. Now the T-34-85, this is the one with a bigger turret, 85mm gun, starts the war with a 76mm gun on it. Still bigger than anything the Germans have, and most of the rest of Europe as well. A guy called Koshkin gets the design in front of Stalin in the later 1930s. The Red Army aren't that bothered. There's rivalries still in Russia. The Red Army's already just decided they're going to have the KV-1 tank, big heavy tank, 76mm gun. Do we really want this one? But Stalin, being a dictator, just as we'll see in a moment how Hitler influenced his tank design, Stalin basically leans forward, coughs politely and says, I think you ought to have this. Yes, comrade Stalin. So on it goes into production. Troublesome beginning for the Russians. They've had to buy in British tanks to copy. They bought in the American Christie tanks in 1930. They're getting there with their production. bid for the production. Krupp, the arms manufacturer, makes the turret. Nothing to do with the designers. That way they design their own one. Henschel and Ferdinand Porsche's consortium, or his company, both put in bids. Porsche, he's got the ear of Hitler, but most of his military designs in World War II, apart from the Kübelwagen and mainly the Schwimmwagen, are pretty useless because he overspecs and complicates things. He wants this vehicle to be petrol-electric drive. They've already had trouble with that with the Tiger 1, doesn't work for them, and the Germans are really wary about that. It needs copper for the electric motors, we haven't got that much, etc. So it's Henschel that gets the design going. And forgive us if you've heard this all the time, but here we have a pre-production Tiger 2, and it's got that turret that was erroneously called for many years the Porsche turret. Porsche had nothing to do with it. Krupp designs it, they realise it's overcomplicated, it's got what they call a shot track. So this production turret is what goes on the main production tanks. First 50 of them have the earlier turret. And why that was a problem was you had to bend the metal, there was cracks in the metal, etc. This one's simpler to build, and even the Germans, even though they've got this beautiful engineering, complex issues, etc. they're doing, even they realise, with Albert Speer coming as production minister, simplify, simplify, simplify is where you can. Speer is trying to persuade Hitler all the time. Are you honestly sure you need something this big, sir? And we get obviously enamoured. Boy, isn't it impressive? That's huge size of gun. The thickness of the armour, never penetrated on the front by any Allied tank, it looks like, in World War II. 2,000–3,000 metres, if you're hit by one of the armour-piercing rounds, nothing's going to survive that on the Western battlefields in tank terms. So it is very, very impressive. Downside, they can't simply make enough of them. And in October of 1944, the Henschel factory in Germany is bombed, and it really causes trouble for... they end up losing. They give up on the idea of the Maus, the famous even bigger tank the Germans were going to build. That's abandoned, and production of the King Tiger, it ends up being limited about 490 odd by the end of the war. Again, something that we're looking at, 68 tons. What a problem you've got, because again, that's going to be a tank that has teething issues. How do we get it to make the transport tracks, just like the Tiger 1? You take the big outer road wheels off, thinner tracks so you can go on the railway, etc. So always going to be an issue there. So even though it is undoubtedly a technological achievement, very, very big and impressive, it certainly does not really help the Germans who are in the war. And you've probably read, you know, a lot of people say probably more of these were destroyed by their own crews because they broke down than ever were knocked out by the enemy in combat. Now, one thing we can uniquely do here now today at the Tank Museum is show you Tiger, the Tiger 2 Royal Tiger sometimes, King Tiger as it was called, and there's our famous Tiger 131, the earlier model, and there they are coming in the arena together. And I'll shut up just for a moment so you can listen to those and see them go by.